speak that much loud. If you can't hear, maybe you can come a little bit far. Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming for my talk today. So it's mostly about the hacking OAuth and like what is a hacker's perspective for our OAuth flows. Before getting started, I would like to thank BSidesPhilly, uh, like organizers and as well as volunteers and everyone. So why don't we give a big applause for them for giving us to give this opportunity for networking and learning something new for today. Yep, thank you. Yeah, there are like around 35 slides. I don't know whether I can cover in 25 minutes. I may go a little bit faster. I'll post the slides later in my LinkedIn or somewhere so you can get through those. Later if you want, or else I think recording also in progress. So good luck with that. So it's not working. Yeah. Okay, let's get started without further ado. So my name is Sheshananda Reddy. You can see that, and this is my LinkedIn or whatever. If you want, you can connect me there and you can ask if you have any questions. I have like total 15 years of experience in application security. Mostly I worked on like web applications, mobile apps, web APIs or like APIs or whatever we call, and few thick client and all those stuff. So mostly into the web application part, not into the network other world. So yeah, I'm part of the ISC2 NJ chapter as well. Anybody is here from ISC2 NJ chapter? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So we have a lot of events are going on in NJ chapter. If you want, yeah, we can join and we can have fun. So the agenda for today. So first we'll try to see like what is authentication and what is authorization. Then we'll try to see like how what try to provide the solution for that. What are the first of all we'll see like what are the challenges we faced before OAuth protocol. So then we'll try to learn more about like how the flows works. If you can understand more how the flows works, it's easy to try to see like how attackers can try to steal our OAuth tokens or like our OAuth flows. So whether it's like ours or maybe our companies or like our entire the flows, like from client to the server, how exactly it works. So this is the typical agenda. If I get a chance, I will try to see with the playground, or else like we will jump onto the common OAuth vulnerabilities, and at the end we'll try to see like how we can mitigate those as well. So as I mentioned, like in the first, let's see like what is authentication and authorization. So most of the people has know this. Like authentication is like we'll try to see like identify the person by looking his DL or like by looking at his whatever the authorization process will do that. So by using like username and password, usually that's what we do for regular human authentication. But for servers, we may have like SSH authentication as well. We may use like public keys and other stuff. So, but that is kind of a typical authentication to see like whether it's a person or like service or process has access to the server or like the services or not. That's kind of like whether he can step into the system or not. So that is kind of a authentication. So when it comes to the authorization, so authorization is like okay, you stepped into the network. So what kind of resources you can access it. So it's not like once you have stepped in, it's not like you can go to the server and delete whatever you want or like see whatever other people profile. So it's not like that. So authorization like just to find it out which part you can access that, because typically if you log into the any Facebook or Google, obviously you can see your own details itself, like your own data only. So that's validation part, we will call it as a authorization. So that's a main difference between the authentication and authorization. So if you want more details of Wikipedia and other places, we can find more thorough details of like what exactly the authentication and authorization. Then let's see like what is OAuth. So if you see in a simple word, like OAuth is like open authorization protocol. So whenever like open authorization protocol, so it's kind of like protocol which has developed like last like maybe 10 to 15 years. It has continuously improved from whatever the stage it was. So but if you see what exactly it will provide is like delegated authorization. So that's the important word we need to understand, like what do you mean by delegation. Like you are going to give permission to this maybe some other service or server or like some other third party company. You are delegating the authorization to uh, access your resources. Like maybe suppose if you have an Instagram or Google or Facebook account where you have your own data, so you are the owner of that data. But if you want to share that data to the someone else or like maybe some other third party website, so you are delegating the access to the third party website to get the data from the OAuth provider, like maybe whether it's a Google or Facebook, we are doing kind of a delegated authorization. We'll try to see like how exactly that works. Yeah, as I mentioned, like it's kind of like authorization protocol. So obviously protocol means we'll see like a lot of RFCs, like request for comments or like whatever. There will be a lot of numbers, no need to worry much. We'll try to select what kind of RFCs come up and what kind of flows are there, how we are trying to protect the this delegated authorization. So we'll try to see like what slowly like what exactly we are going to do. So next is like okay, first of all, why do we need to share resources securely? So because as I mentioned, like if you want to share your Instagram photos to some other third party app, or like maybe if you want to share your data, like maybe it's first name, last name, your address or email ID, something like that. If you want to share with some other app, so we need to make sure like we are sharing it in a secure manner. So that's the reason. Suppose if you see an example, like if you have like some photos on your device, and if you are sharing that with the WhatsApp or iMessage, so that's everything is in your own control because that's your device. You can share it with your like wherever you want it. You can share it with your WhatsApp or you can share it with the iMessages. But what happens if it is on the server? So because we don't have much control on the server, so how exactly we are trying to share it? That's where we are trying to understand, and that's where we are trying to see the flows. Then we will try to learn it more. So let's see like before going further, if you remove the word securely there, so why do we need to share the resources first of all? So because if you see this is the different sign up pages. So whenever I see the some sign up, I don't want to write my email ID and I don't want to write my first name and last name. So what I'll do like mostly I will try to use any OAuth. Like if it is already Google account is there, we'll just tap on it and everything will be due in the backend. So our email ID and first name and last name will be shared with the whether it's a ChatGPT or Eventbrite or whatever. So it will be done in the backend without knowing to us. So without knowing to us itself, we are trying to share our resources to the some third party. This is like maybe it's well known, but we are doing for a lot of third party website as well by using the OAuth protocol. So that's a kind of example. So why exactly we need it? For usability purposes or maybe user experience purposes, we are trying to share the resources. So we are sharing it, but how we can share it securely, that's what exactly we are going to see. So here I have given only example for username and username or first name, last name, email ID, but there are chances to share the files and a lot of things as well by using the OAuth. So let's see the next one. So yeah, we have seen like latest great UIs, but what happened earlier, like at least like 10, 15 years back, how we were sharing the contacts or like how we are doing the, how we are sharing the resources earlier. So this is a one old website screenshot. I took it from the, maybe this slide share. So what exactly we are doing is like here help is asking to find our friends concept. Maybe if you are like using the internet for like 15, 20 years back, you could have seen this page. So what exactly help is asking here is like, it is asking our Gmail address and password to get our friend contacts. Maybe in 2024, I don't think anyone will share their Gmail email ID and password to some random third party website. But of course, it happened sometime back. But whenever the security folks have seen this, they thought like it's not a good practice. Obviously, we don't want to ask the user credential to share the credentials to get our contact. So for that, that's the main reason what come up into the picture. So okay, we understood like okay, this is what happened. So this is how we share it. So how exactly what works? Then only we'll try to understand a little bit more. Let's see like how what works is like suppose you have a Google account or Facebook account or like Apple or whatever company you have trust, you have an account. So what will happen is like okay, you have an account and everything is registered in your iPhone or Google. So then what we try to do is like we went to some random registration page. So what is that is like maybe we have seen ChatGPT or Eventbrite sometime back, right? So that registration page will show a link like for that. Okay, you want to log in with the Google. So that's where we'll start this flow, this entire OAuth flow. Then what will happen? Okay, some registration page show up this. Then okay, once you clicked on it, so once you clicked on it in the back end without knowing to you, so that entire OAuth flow will happen. So you may sometimes it may ask to enter your email ID and password one more time. Here the main difference we have to observe is we are not sharing the Google, Facebook accounts back to the some third-party registration page. We are just sharing with our own Google, whichever we already trusted, Google or Facebook, whatever the trusted website. They will validate our credentials. Then what they try to do is like, once that validation is done, okay, they will ask a question, like give you consent. So we are going to share these kind of details back to this registration page. I'm just giving an example as a registration page. That may be something else as well. So once the user clicks on that consent, then only we move on to the next stage. Like that we'll see like what will happen in the backend and all. So then after that consent, the third party website will get back to her, maybe whether it's a date of birth, email address and all. So this is pretty much high level what will happen in the backend. So if you see here, so some app here registered into the app B. Here app B is like OAuth server or like a OAuth website where they will register as a one new client. So if you see like Facebook, this third party website will register as a client. So they will get a client ID. So by using that client ID, whenever we go to the user registration page of the third party website, so then they will start a OAuth flow. Usually we'll call it a OAuth integration flow. So what they will do, like once we it will redirect to the app B, and it will provide the consent to the user, like do you want to grant the permission, yes or no. So once the user approves that, then what this third party website will do, like it will send an auth code. Usually they will provide a kind of a auth code, and it will send a request back to the resource server, and they will get back the whatever we have agreed to share. So we means here the user has agreed to share the data. So this is pretty much high level. In the next flow, in the next slide, we'll see like in little bit more detail. So here like this is what we have seen so far, right? So what user has entered a URL, like maybe he go to the some registration page. So that browser or like user agent, it will open a URL. So that will start the OAuth process. So that OAuth process will redirect the user back to the authorization server here. This authorization server will initiate the authorization UI. Okay, so some third-party application is asking for your data. So what I have to do? So can I provide it or not? This authorization server will ask. So if he say that, so okay, he will validate your credentials and it will generate authorization code. That authorization code will go back to the browser. So this, like during these redirections, this authorization code will go back to the web server. This is the client app, like third-party registration app. This app will send this authorization code in the backend. If you see here, there is no user involvement here. So this authorization code will send back to the authorization server in the backend. So whenever this will happen, by using that authorization code, they will get an access token. By using that access token, it will make a call to the resource server. So here authorization server will do the all kind of validations. Okay, this is authorization code is the valid or not, whether it's already used or whether it's tagged to this client app or not, whether it's coming from some other app or else it's expired on. All those kind of authorizations will happen at this side. So once that authorization is done, so then we'll move on to the resource server to share back the required, like whatever the agreed resources. So this is pretty much high level, not high level, it's a detail. So let's see, like this is another flow, like not another flow, it's existing flow. So what will happen, like after some time, we have given access to the server, but after like 1 hour or 2 hours or like after some time, if user wants to access the resource again, so we don't want to we don't want to ask the user to enter the credential and provide the authorization one more time, because that will be like user experience issue. So we'll have like one more token, like kind of a refresh token. By using the refresh token, we'll get back the access token again. We can get the resource again. So this is mostly will happen without knowing to the user in the backend, like in the browser or like in the backend. So we have seen like several flows or like several terminologies. So if you see in the high level, so who is the resource owner? So user is the resource owner. So we are the owner of our own data. So that's going to be stored in the resource server. Resource server may be like whoever is providing that. So resource owner authorization, sometimes it will be two different services if they want to segregate the duties or like separate the duties. But sometimes few organizations will keep in the same server. But that should be fine, because unless they are doing in the backend, that should be fine. So who is the client here? This client is like a third-party app who will be like in the backend. In the backend, they will register their app and they will get the client ID and client secret. So this client secret also kind of like important, because they use that client secret to send the authorization code, get back the access token or refresh tokens. So this is the overall like what is OAuth and also. Let's see like, so we can see like another sample request. If you see like, this is like typical OAuth request, how it looks like. Maybe if you have observed any one of the, in your regular web application pen test or like mobile pen test, you could have seen this. But maybe slight differences will be there in the authorized, like maybe some people will keep like v2 OAuth or something like that. But mostly it looks like these are the typical query parameters, we can call it as, so it will be there. So we have seen like, if you see in the first slide, we have seen several RFCs. So whenever the OAuth has started, it's mainly concentrated only, maybe at least on the web application side. But when the technology evolves day to day, mobile application comes and single page applications, or like even the, we can see the Apple TV or Netflix or Roku, lot of stuffs come up. So, but still, users wants to use their own, like already existing credentials. They don't want to create another credential, and they don't want to. So to provide the better, better usability purposes, they come up with the different solutions and different OAuth code flows. Usually, like at least in the starting, they used to use the only authorization flow. But whenever the like mobile applications, others comes up, so they started using the different the flows. So let's see, like maybe in the next slide I will try to explain. So if you see like at the high level, this is maybe very broad diagram, or like maybe a little bit confusing if you see in the first end, because OAuth itself, it's a big protocol, and it has to solve a lot of issues. So that's the reason it has started with the different flows and different authorization codes and implicit flow and all. This is at least not required for at this level. So I just gave it for a reference. Since we are running out of time, if I don't think so, I can cover the OAuth playground. That we can, if you want, you can play around with that later. So we have seen this in the previous slide. If you see, this is the OAuth request. So if you see closely into this, maybe whoever has done typical web applications, pen testing, they can at least guess few attacks that possible on this flow. If you see like, this is the main important one, the redirect URI. If you see this one, so whenever we are redirecting the authorization code, so there are chances of attacks here, because if someone has inserted his own attacker domain or attacker controlled URL, our access code or authorization code will go back to them. And if you see this state as well, so because maybe people have seen like CSRF attacks, because if the cookie values is not validated properly at the server side, so there are chances for the CSRF attacks as well. So let's see like how exactly will happen. So these are the typical, at least there are several attacks, but at least we can categorize into the three broad categories of like common OAuth issues. What so far people have seen, and maybe still there are chances of uncovered vulnerabilities also there. At least the first one is like, as we have seen in the previous slide, the misconfigurations in the redirections URI. So if you see like that entire flow, we are sending the registration page back to the OAuth server, and once again coming back, and we are redirecting the authorization code back to the third party side. If we are not redirecting that in a proper way, and attacker can send the send a URL which will, like, it's kind of like phishing URL, which if the user clicks on it without knowing like what exactly is in the redirect URL, because if you see in a URL, that looks like a valid URL only for related to that third party website. But if you are not validating the redirect URIs, there are chances of attacks, because if you clicked on it, our authorization code may go back to the attacker controlled domain like website. So then he can take the token. It's kind of like, if you see like in regular any hotel scenario, so you will get your token, so you can access any room. Like if suppose if you lose your token, so if someone got it, so they can open your room and they can do it. It's kind of a similar scenario. If you lose your authorization code, so someone can take it, they can use it. So that's main for that's the main disadvantages with the misconfigured redirect URL. So we have to be very careful. And broken authorization grants also, it's kind of a like if you are granting the, like suppose we say OAuth the server. So if it is granting the without validating the authorization grants properly, and if it is granting the resources back to the someone like attacker or some third party website, so someone can spoof it. So for that, what we have to do, we have to maintain proper client validation, whether it's a valid one or not. And so that's kind of things we can see that. And weak client authentication also will be there. So we'll show you. So as I mentioned, the main important one is like redirect URI misconfigurations. Yeah. So these are the main what exactly we need to do during the redirecting the URI misconfiguration. So what we had to look for the any open redirects are there, or else like any validations are we doing properly or not. If you see in this side, so usually we have kept like some regex like star dot some site example dot like example slash star. But if in plain sight it looks like pretty much good because we are validating for our own website. But some attacker what he can do is like some site instead of that he can redirect that flow back to the attacker domain. So even if you see in the double submit the redirectory. So even though we are validating properly, if there are two query parameters is there for the same name with the redirect URI, so there are chances to get the authorization code as well. So then there is a good website as well with the ports figure where we can do the URI validation bypass cheat sheet. So we can try to see like maybe if you have seen any in your regular pen test or web application pen test, you can try to play around with the redirection URI to see like whether the OAuth server is leaking the authorization code. So there is a like I think this is like maybe sometime back because of some parser issues with the Chrome and the server how exactly they are treating the URL. So there are chances to bypass the validations as well. So I think this is fixed for now, but this is kind of a, like an example where like if you are validating a if you are even though if you are doing the validation properly, but if the parser interpretations is not doing great, like if you see browser side interpretation is different and server side interpretations are different, there are chances for the bypassing the validations also. So these are the few, maybe at least I just kept couple of examples what happens in the recent, like multiple bugs, like if you see like redirect URI with the XSS, if you combine these both, it's too danger. So there are chances for like one-click account takeover chances are there. So this is happened for the Facebook and happened for the booking.com due to the multiple redirections and not validating the URLs. So even as I mentioned, there are chances for the authorization grant vulnerabilities. Like whenever we are granting a vulnerability, like granting a authorization code, we should be very careful whether it's coming from the expected person or not. So for that reason, we need to validate the state parameter properly because that will prevent the unauthorized access. Because in what typically it will have it. So and attacking weak client authentication, because usually once we provided the client ID and client secret back to the third-party applications, we never know like how they are exactly storing it. They may be doing the hard coding, or they may be by mistakenly sending back to the user itself. So because if it is coming back to the user, if it is there in the browser, like local storage or like session storage, there are chances for other attacks. So we have to be make sure like the third-party application, whoever is using our services, OAuth services, make sure they are not losing their client ID and client secret, because if they lose it, someone can misuse that as well. So we have to be educate them to use the uh, different mechanism to protect their keys. One of them is like mutual TLS, we can use it, and they can use like signed JWTs or JOTs to make a communication from server to server instead of doing from browser to the server. At least this weak client authentication should happen in the backend. So another one is like insecure token storage. So we have seen several tokens flying around in this entire flow, right? Maybe maybe it's like whether it's like authorization code or like access token or refresh token. We have to be like pretty much careful with those tokens, how exactly we are storing and how exactly we are sharing back to the user. So I think we are running out of time. So actually, RFC for security best practices, this is the best place to get started if you want to learn more about RLs, like trying to protect your applications. So you can search for RFC security best practices for OAuth. You can find it out. And these are the few references, and I kept it as a reference. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everyone.